Hi, my name is Carter Razink, the CEO of DropChain. Today, we're going to show you how to swap two different tokens or NFTs using DropChain. If you haven't yet, create a free account at dropchain.network and start with going through the quick start guide. Using the DropChain API and something like how to swap two NFTs or two tokens between two different people, you can build both code and no-code Web3 apps using the DropChain API. But for this example, we're going to be focusing on no-code. We're going to use Postman. And so if you haven't yet, create a Postman account. This is one of the first, this is one of many different videos through this series showing you kind of how to set up your DropChain API. And in this case, we're going to swap tokens and NFTs. A good example of why you would want to do this is maybe you have a marketplace where on one end is your test account that is used to support the marketplace, and another end is different people who want to buy and sell different goods and services through your in NFTs or in assets and in different tokens, and you can exchange these assets, exchange these tokens between different users. Another good example could be trading, right? If you want to trade a sword for my shield, you can do that easily with this endpoint if you're building a Web3 game. Or maybe you want to swap different one NFT ticket to Taylor Swift or something. You can swap $50 in your token and do that seamlessly. And so we're going to show you kind of how to integrate that. First things first, we're going to go to Postman and we're going to create within your collection you've created, you're going to add a request. If we go back here, you'll see post, which means again, we need to update this to have post. And then we're going to copy the URL. This is going to be the request destination you're sending it to. Again, if you haven't already, you're going to add the header authorization. So if you go to authorization, API key, I have already done this. So the key is going to be x-api-key, as you see it right here. And then your API key is going to be the value, and then you're going to add that to the header. You can get your API keys from the console, the DropChain Network console, your developer console. You go to the API dashboard, and this will allow you to see all of your information, like your API keys and your test accounts. Now, when you log in here for the first time, you're not going to see any API keys. You can generate this, and it'll look like this. When you log back in, your API keys will be censored with a bunch of asterisks. That's so that you don't misplace it. If you show this off or expose this or allow it to get lost or stolen or whatever, you should immediately delete it with this trash can icon and then regenerate a new one. And to be honest, you should do this semi-frequently just to be safe. But for now, keep these API keys safe. For this example, you're not going to be able to use this because at this point, it'll be deleted in the near future. And so you'd copy this API key, you'd paste it here, and then you'd go to the body. And just like this, we're going to copy the data section to your API call. Then you're going to click raw, then you're going to hit JSON and paste that right in. And we're going to work through each of these fields that you need to fill out right here. So first things first, copy your app ID on the bottom left or at the top of your console as we showed it earlier. And we're going to skip some of these for now. But for first things, we're going to address the user1 and user2 user ID, as well as receiver1 and receiver2 user ID. And so for this example, we go back to the console and let's go look at our test accounts. Our test accounts, there are 5 available, and we're going to test 2 of them. So the first things first, we have test user1 user ID. We're going to copy that and paste it into user1 user ID, and test user2 user ID. Test user2 user ID right here. We're going to copy that one and paste it under user2. And so in this example, how this works is we're going to take user1 user ID. We're going to put this here, and user1 is going to send to receiver1. User2 is going to send their assets to receiver2. And so in this example, let's say we're trying to make a trade. We have 2 test users. We want to trade with test user 1 and test user 2. What we would do is we would say user 1 is sending to receiver or to user 2. So user 1 is going to send to receiver 2, or to, sorry, I misspoke. User 1 is sending to receiver 1, which test user 1 is sending to test user 2. And so we're basically just going to swap them. It's kind of a lot of words, and it can be a little confusing, but basically we just want to make sure that they're the opposite. So your user 1 is going to be your receiver 2, and your user 2 is going to be your receiver 1. Just want to explain this so that it makes sense when you want to integrate this into your platform, which one is going where. So again, user 1 user ID is sending to receiver 1, and in this case we want to send from test user 1 wants to send it to test user 2. So OZD is going to send it to AAX. OZD, test user 1, is sending it to receiver 1, AAX. And the opposite is true. AAX is sending it to OZD. User 2 is sending it to receiver 2. And so hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you have any problems throughout this tutorial or any other tutorials, first A, make an account on DropChain.network. B, join the DropChain.network Discord. That'll be on our website, also in our developer console, and as well as in a link description, in the description below. Second, we're gonna make two different NFTs or two different tokens to swap between the two people. So let's go to Asset Mint. If you can follow along if you have this already. We're going to, let's say we're gonna make two NFTs. We're gonna call the first one, maybe we wanna call it test NFT 1. Let's call it NFT 1. And we're gonna mint this one. Okay, and we have just minted our first NFT using test user 1. And then we're gonna mint a second NFT using test user 2. And so we're gonna copy that user ID. We're just gonna change a few lines. We're gonna do NFT 2 and test NFT 2. Don't forget to save and then send your request. And we have minted the second NFT. And so before we go any further, let's take a look at the asset IDs that we're gonna have to opt in each of our users into so that we can make the transaction. So the first one is this one, and that's AKED. And then we're gonna duplicate this tab. And we're gonna go and find the most recent NFT that we have made with MQSK, which appears to be this one. And then perfect. So we have the two assets. We have test NFT 1 and test NFT 2 that we made. We're gonna go back here and we're gonna be, we first need to opt in. Completely forgot to do that. Don't forget to opt into your assets. And so we're gonna opt in test user 2 into NFT asset, test NFT 1. And we also need to update the API key. I'm gonna say all this together. It's an annoying part of changing things midway. And so we're gonna opt in the test user 2, AAX, into the asset ID for test NFT 1 so that it can receive it when we do the swap transaction, and the opt-in's true. And we're also going to opt in test user 1 into the asset ID for test NFT 2 here. Basically, this is allowing both sides, both test user 1 to own both NFT 1 and NFT 2, and the same thing for test user 2 to own both NFT 1 and NFT 2. And perfect. So now we can work to executing this transaction. We're going to copy test NFT 1 and we're going to put it into the asset 1 ID field. And we're going to copy test NFT 2 and copy it into the asset 2 ID field. And in this case, there's only one that exists when we made this for both test NFT 1 and test NFT 2. There's only one that exists. So we're going to be just sending one between the both of them. And so before we send this, let's verify the transaction. Let's understand what's happening here. We're saying user 1, OZD, our test user 1, go back here, OZD here. So our test user 1 is sending to test user 2 1 unit of NFT 1. And then test user 2 is sending to test user 1 unit of test NFT 2. So basically, user 1 sending NFT 1 to user 2, and user 2 is sending NFT 2 to user 1. And perfect. And then we're gonna send. And there we go. Let's copy the transaction and take a look at what happened. Here we go. We said, let's take a look at the group ID, which is a group transaction. And what we have here is MQSK, the test user 1, sent to test user 2. Test user 2 sent to test user 1. There was 2 total transactions in it. And it looks like test NFT 1 was sent to test user 2, and test NFT 2 was sent to test user 1. So just like we said, we just made 2 NFTs, opted in both of our accounts into the NFTs, and then sent it and swapped 1 for 1. Theoretically, you could do it with any asset in the future that you mint. You could be 500 tokens or 500 coins for your app for 1 rare trading card, or it could be any number of assets. This can be 1 million if you really wanted to. This asset swap allows you to swap tokens or NFTs within your Web3 app using the DropChain API. This allows you to use the really robust smart contracts through our API. No need to know how to make smart contracts. Please, if this helped you, make a free account at dropchain.network to get started if you're interested in building your first Web3 app, and then join the Discord. I'm in there, my co-founders are in there, other fellow builders in Web3 are in there, building Web3 apps, using these endpoints, and making really cool products